The Pacific nations of Tonga, Vanuatu and Tuvalu could soon face US travel bans. It's not clear why. They've reportedly been included in an expanded proposal of 36 additional countries the Trump administration's planning to impose travel restrictions on. Dr. Malakai Koloamatangi from Tonga National University says it's a surprising situation for the small island nations.
In all honesty, you wouldn't equate the Pacific and the peaceful Pacific to other troubled with other troubled parts of the world, and certainly the US has always been an additional friend of the Pacific, and yes, I was surprised. I think myself and others, not only in the Pacific but also in the diaspora overseas, quite surprised to see that these pre-Pacific islands were included on the list.
Why do you think these Pacific nations, Tonga, Vanuatu and Tuvalu, are being targeted by the Trump administration?
It's a very good question. And I think, I see that governments of Vanuatu and Tonga have asked the Trump administration for clarification, and the reasons why these countries have been included under the travel ban. We can guess, I suppose. The U.S. State Department has issued some reasons. For example, because of terrorism, terrorist activities, or people overstaying their visas in the States. Some of these countries, all three countries, had sold, passport selling schemes in the past to generate revenue. The U.S. is saying that it's worried about countries who sell their citizenship, and although of course other countries do it as well, not only these three Pacific countries. They also give official reasons as to these countries are not cooperating with the security measures that the U.S. has put in place, and also they're not facilitating or not facilitating enough cooperation between the U.S. and these countries, which are quite interesting reasons. And taking the face value, some of them could be are correct. There are a lot of there's some people who overstay their visas in the U.S. and other foreign nationals also do the same. I'd be interested to see how many people from these Pacific islands actually overstay their visas. I mean, we're talking about tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. What are we talking about?
Is it clear what the next steps are? Because it's not set in stone that a ban on these additional countries will definitely occur. What do these countries have to prove to the US in order to not be subject to the ban?
Well, the 60 days have been given as the period duration in which these countries have to show, probably through a systemic evidence, that they have complied with the wishes of the U.S. in terms of the overstaying. They are also being accused of not helping the U.S. with the deportees from the U.S. To these countries. So I'm guessing that the U.S. wants evidence that these countries are willing and have made changes to the system and their approaches, and that would give to allay the fears that the U.S. obviously has with in these areas.
If the ban does go ahead, what would it mean to the Tongan community and diaspora?
Look, I think there's around 78,000 Tongans that have called the U.S. Their home. There are a lot of Tongans who travel. Many Tongans travel or want to travel to the U.S. And of course now they have to go through Fiji to get their visas. And some of course don't get the visas, so they come back after spending money, in Fiji and so on and so forth. I think it just makes things harder, obviously, make it more difficult. It is actually quite difficult now to get to the U.S. if you are a Tongan citizen. The ban will make it obviously almost impossible. We don't know what family gatherings and that kind of thing. And for example, many Tongans have visas to study in the U.S. For those reasons, it'll be quite sad, I think, if the ban is imposed on Tonga and Tongans cannot visit the U.S. And also, of course, that'll not only the actual travel itself, but the implications that arise from the ban, I think, will be far-reaching. There's a history of U.S.-Tonga relations during peacetime and also during the wars, where Tonga has stood by the U.S. to fight in theaters, for example, that have nothing to do with Tonga, for example, in the Middle East and so on and so forth. Trade is important. The geopolitics, as you know, is this area, the Pacific itself is a growing important area in terms of geopolitics, with China and so forth, taking a much interest in what's happening. Security itself, if the U.S., if the relationship's sour, and these countries do not accept the U.S. into their waters and so forth, it could become problematic. Actually, it will probably aggravate the very problem that Trump wants to see resolved. I'm also thinking of the future relationship between the U.S. and Tonga. There was a disengagement, for example, prior to Obama, and then, of course, there's been a kind of a re-engagement. But obviously, this will be a complete severing of the ties between Tonga and the U.S. So, the consequences will be far-reaching. I have no doubt about that if this ban goes ahead.
How damaging could this be for the US and its desire to have more influence in the Pacific?
Well, I think if what the US is wanting from the Pacific is to have more influence in terms of the geopolitics and economics and security and so forth, then it's going about it the wrong way. This will have the very opposite effect. It will drive the Pacific towards Asia and towards China, because China actually, by comparison, is making it very, very easy for Tongans, for example, to travel to China. So if I were wanting to go, not to go to the US, but have China as an option, I would jump the chance to go to China. I mean, it'd be easier, friendly people. They're more accommodating. They got an embassy here in Tonga, and they are becoming an important part of the social and economic life of the country. The Chinese immigration and so on. So China will be the counterweight to the lessening of the U.S. influence in the Pacific.
Dr. Malakai Koloamatangi, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.